Hi Lamai. Today we are going to discuss about capacity planning. It is your chapter number 7. So we move to the slides. Okay, these are our chapter contents in capacity planning. So first content is measuring capacity and utilization. Second point we are going to discuss today is demand management strategies, how we are going to manage our demand. Third point we are going to talk today is short-term capacity modifying strategies. So what are the short-term capacity modifying strategies? Then as fourth point we are going to talk long-term capacity modifying strategies. So in long-term period how we are going to manage our capacity. So what are the possible strategies that we have? So we'll discuss one by one, right? So measuring capacity and utilization. So we want to know two things. What is mean by capacity, then how we are going to utilize our capacity. So here I have given the definition here. Capacity levels refers to the output achievable in production. So what is capacity then? Capacity is the output level achievable in production. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට ළඟා කරගන්න පුළුවන් නිෂ්පාදන ධාරිතාවය අපි කියනවා capacity level එක කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි හිතමු ආයතනයකට හදන්න පුළුවන් ඒක එක 100යි. නැත්නම් ආයතනයකට තියෙන්නේ ශ්‍රම පැය 100යි. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි කියමු ආයතනයකට තියෙන්නේ machine hours 500යි. ඒක තමයි අපි කියන්නේ ආයතනයකට තියෙන නිෂ්පාදන ධාරිතාවය. Likewise we can take few examples. So the main example we can take okay, we'll take one example here. I'll take one example. So capacity levels. The capacity level is the output level that we can achieve by the organization, right? So here the output achievable in production. So for one organization their capacity level can be 1000 units for that particular period, which means for that particular period they can produce only 1000 units. So the 1000 units will be their capacity. So this is in unit terms. Okay, we'll say one product needed 2 hours, 2 labor hours. 2 labor hours needed to produce one product, which means to produce this 1000 units, then that means we need 2000 hours. So 1000 into, so the capacity we can describe in this way as well. So our capacity level will be 2000 labor hours. So for the particular period we can produce only 1000 units, that is our capacity. Or either in labor hour terms we can define it as we are having only 2000 labor hours for that particular period. So that is our capacity level, right? So now you can understand what is the meaning of capacity levels. So that is the output achievable in production. So it can be number of units, it can be available labor hours, so it can be our maximum available machine hours, whatever, right? So then we want to discuss why we need to know about capacity levels. So the main purpose I have highlighted here, we can see when standard absorption costing is used, capacity levels are needed to establish a standard absorption rate for fixed production overhead. So this is their main need. Why capacity levels are required? To identify overhead absorption rate. So someone can ask why capacity levels are needed. Why we want to know about capacity level? Why? So we can explain. If an organization is following standard costing, they want to absorb their fixed overheads. let's say their fixed overheads are 500,000. For a particular period, their fixed overheads are 500,000. An organization is there, they are following standard costing. Okay, fine. Then they want to find the cost of a product. For that purpose, what they do, they will identify what are the variable cost for that particular product. Let's say that organization is trying to find their unit cost, so they can find their variable cost directly. Let's say variable cost is 50. Then what you want to do, they want to find what is the fixed overhead we can absorb. That is overhead absorption rate into the basis. Either it can be unit basis, either it can be labor hour basis, either it can be machine hour basis, whatever, right? So here let's say this particular organization, for this particular period, their fixed overheads are 500,000. For that particular period, they have produced 100,000 units. They produce how many units? 100,000 units. Which means we can find their overhead absorption rate 500,000 for this entire production. To find per unit cost, what you want to do, the 500,000 cost we want to divide it by number of output, it is 100,000. So we can find 5 rupee as overhead absorption rate, which means to produce 1 unit we need 5 rupee from fixed cost, which means this is our overhead absorption rate for 1 unit. So here we have taken number of unit basis, which means overhead absorption rate into basis, that means 1 unit. So 5 into 1, which means 5 rupee, which means we can find the total cost of that particular product is 55. Understood? Which means to find the overhead absorption rate or to absorb the fixed overhead into our output or into our production, what you want, we want to know the capacity level. So here this 100,000 units is our capacity level. After knowing this capacity level, only we can find the overhead absorption rate, which means if an organization is following absorption costing, they need capacity levels to find the overhead absorption rate. Understood? Which means to find the cost of a product, to absorb the fixed overhead into a particular product, what do you want? We want to know the capacity level. So capacity level is very important. This capacity level is mainly important for the organization who are following standard absorption costing. If any organization is following standard absorption costing, they need to know what is their capacity levels. Then only they can find their overhead absorption rate, then only they can find the unit cost, then only they can do whatever the other things, pricing, unit valuation, whatever, right? Now you know what are the capacity levels that we can describe. So here for the capacity levels, mainly we can describe 3 types of capacity levels are there. So here for any organization, they can see following 3 capacity levels. So capacity levels I have divided into 3 types here. First one is design capacity, second one is my effective capacity, third one is budgeted capacity. So we'll go one by one. What is design capacity, what is effective capacity, what is budgeted capacity. So this capacity levels, remember, we can describe in any form. Either it can be number of output. So we can say capacity level is 500,000 labor hours, or either we can say our capacity level is 100,000 units, or either we can say our capacity level is 200,000 machine hours. අපිට capacity level එක යම් නිමවුම් මට්ටමකින් කියන්න පුළුවන්, යම් ශ්‍රම පෑ ගානකින් කියන්න පුළුවන් සහ මැෂින් අවස් ගානකින් මුත් අපිට ඩිස්ක්‍රයිබ් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ මොනම ක්‍රමයකින් අපි ඩිස්ක්‍රයිබ් කරත් අපි ඩිස්ක්‍රයිබ් කරන්නේ අපිට තියෙන ධාරිතාවය. අපිට ධාරිතාවය කොච්චරක් තියෙනවද? අපිට ආයතනෙන් ආයතනයට තමන්ගේ ධාරිතාවයන් වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right. So we'll go one by one. What is design capacity, what is effective capacity, and what is budgeted capacity. So these are theoretical terms. These are very important because this time MCQ questions are there. So you want to know the meaning of these capacity types, right? So we'll go one by one. Design capacity. Design capacity. So this is the highest capacity level any organization can see, which means this is the theoretical maximum capacity, assuming that continuous production without any stoppages due to factors such as machine downtime, supply shortages, or labor shortages. So full capacity would be associated with ideal standards. So you want to know any organization, this design capacity is the maximum capacity level that they can achieve, which means here they are assuming there won't be any stoppages, there won't be any labor shortages, there won't be any machine downtime. Here they are assuming all resources are utilized effectively and they are trying to achieve their maximum capacity. So that is their design capacity. So here remember that the organizations are assuming they are using ideal standards. It is very important lamai you highlight ideal standards. ඒ කියන්නේ මෙතනදී එයාට තියෙන හොඳම ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක තමයි එයා යොදාගන්නේ. සහ මෙතනදී එයා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන කිසිම බාධාවකින් තොරව මෙයාට ව්‍යාපාරික කටයුතු කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ මැෂින්ස් නතර වෙන්නේ නැහැ, ලේබර් ෂෝටේජ් මොකුත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මැෂින්ස්, ලේබර්ස්, අනිත් රිසෝසස් ඔක්කොම යූස් කරොත් මෙයාට ළඟා කරගන්න පුළුවන් උපරිම ධාරිතාවය කොච්චරද? අපි ඒකට කියනවා design capacity. එතකොට මේක තමයි ආයතනයක තියෙන පුළුවන් උපරිම ධාරිතාවය. එතකොට මෙතනදී මතක තියාගන්න එයාලා use කරන්නේ ideal standards. So here they use ideal standards, which means they are using the best standards. Right? So I want to highlight that term. Remember, in design capacity they are using ideal standards. So this can be tested. This can be tested in your MCQ. Right? So you want to remember that for design capacity we are using ideal standards. So we'll take one example. Capacity. I'm taking one example. So let's say for ideal capacity we can take 1000 units. 1000 units is our ideal. So here 1000 units is our maximum capacity that we can achieve, which means we are using our ideal standards to produce this, which means this 1000 units will be our design capacity. This will be our design capacity. So here remember we are using ideal standards. Next one, effective capacity. So how effective capacity is differ with design capacity. So here we are adjusting some stoppages, some labor shortages, some factors are there, those are unavoidable. So those things we want to take into consideration before deciding our capacity levels. So here this 1000 unit is the capacity level which we can achieve if we are using ideal standards, but we want to remember that ideal standards are not always practicable. Due to some practical problems we can't depend on ideal standards. Sometimes there can be labor shortages, sometimes there can be machine breakdowns, sometimes there can be other wastages. So those things we need to be considered. Therefore we are adjusting some labor shortages, machine breakdowns, then we are coming into a capacity level called design capacity, which means we are deciding our capacity level based on not ideal standards, we are deciding our capacity level based on attainable standards. So this word is very important, attainable standards. So here we are using attainable standards. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට යොදා ගන්න පුළුවන් standards තමයි යොදා ගන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ මෙතනදී අපි ලේබර් ෂෝටේජ් තිබ්බොත් ඒව ඇඩ්ජස්ට් කරනවා. මැෂින් බ්‍රේක් ඩවුන් තිබ්බොත් ඒව ඇඩ්ජස්ට් කරනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය නාස්තිය තිබ්බොත් ඒව ඇඩ්ජස්ට් කරනවා. ඒවා ඇඩ්ජස්ට් කරලා අපි ළඟා කරගන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට ප්‍රායෝගික ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ්ස් තමයි යොදා ගන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රශස්ත එකම යොදාගන්නේ නැහැ. අපි ඇඩ්ජස්ට්මන්ට් එකක් කරලා අපිට ළඟා කරගන්න පුළුවන් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ්ස්. නැත්නම් ප්‍රායෝගිකව අපිට යොදා ගන්න පුළුවන් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ්ස් තමයි යොදාගන්නේ. So we are using here attainable standards, which means this effective capacity is more realistic. In practical world, we can see effective capacity. This is more realistic. The effective capacity is realistic. But this design capacity, it is highly theoretical. This is highly theoretical. Effective capacity is realistic. So here I have given the definition, so you can go through. So here they are adjusting machine breakdowns, labor shortages, and if there's any wastage, those things they are adjusting, and they are coming to a realistic capacity level called effective capacity. So which means then if we compare design capacity and effective capacity, which one is lower? Obviously the design capacity should be higher, effective capacity should be a lower level, because in effective capacity level we are adjusting some breakdowns, labor shortages and all. So if I take 1000 unit as my ideal standard, or if I use my design capacity as 1000 units, for effective capacity I can take a number of output lesser than this. So we'll say it is 800 units, which means this 200 units are reduced because of some labor shortages, some machine breakdowns or whatever. So you can see design capacity is the highest level, then effective capacity is some realistic output level. So this here we can see this example, this effective capacity is lesser than design capacity. Right, now third one we are going to talk about budgeted capacity. So budgeted capacity, so this budgeted capacity is the capacity level required to produce our budgeted output. මේක අපේ බජට් එකත් එක්ක තමයි බේස් වෙන්නේ. This is highly based on our budgeted output. So to produce our budgeted output, what is the capacity level required? We call budgeted capacity. Either it can be described in labor hour terms or machine hour terms, whatever, right? So budgeted capacity level is required to achieve our budgeted output. That is the meaning. So here we'll say our budgeted output is 700 units, which means to this particular period we want to produce only 700 units, which means at that point our budgeted capacity will be 700 units. Why? We need only 700 units to be sold, which means we want to only produce 700 units. Let's say there are no any opening stock, which means to sell this 700 units we want to produce only 700 units. So this is our budgeted output. So budgeted output is 700 units. So our capacity requirement also 700 units. So budgeted capacity always depend on our budgeted output. To produce our budgeted output, what is the capacity level is required? It is our budgeted capacity. So here in this example budgeted capacity will be 700 units. So remember, budgeted capacity always depend on current standards. Let's say this is May month. So May month we need 700 units. So in this month our budgeted capacity will be 700 units. We'll say for next month, June, we need 900 units, which means in the next month our budgeted capacity will be 900 units, which means it based on the current standards. So this month standard is 700 units, next month it can be 900 or whatever. So remember, budgeted capacity is always depend on our our current standards. So this is very important, right? This is based on our budget. This is based on our budgeted output, right? So these things are very important. So these things are can be tested in your MCQ questions. In your MCQs, they can test this kind of questions, right? Okay. Then with budgeted capacity, another capacity level we are describing here, it is idle capacity. What is idle capacity? So there can be idle capacity can be seen when there is any budgeted capacity. So look at my example. According to our attainable standards, what is our capacity level? Our capacity level is 800 units. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට ළඟා කරගන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රායෝගික ධාරිතාවය කොච්චරද? Units 800ක්. But our budgeted capacity is how much? It is just 700 units. Now you can see, as an organization we can produce 800 units. Those are more realistic. That means practically we can produce this much. Practically we can produce this much. But our budgeted requirement is only 700 units. Now you can see practicable capacity is 800, but we are only producing 700 units, which means there will be some unused capacity. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ප්‍රයෝජනයට නොගත් capacity ප්‍රමාණයක් නැත්නම් ධාරිතාවයක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ඒකට කියනවා මොකද්ද? Idle capacity. So idle capacity is what is the capacity level which we are not used. So here you can see idle capacity is unused capacity. So I'll highlight this word. Idle capacity is unused capacity. So remember, idle capacity we can compute using this formula: practicable capacity minus budgeted capacity. Idle capacity equals practical capacity minus budgeted capacity. This practical capacity, it is always effective capacity, which means practical capacity or effective capacity minus budgeted capacity. If there's any answer, positive answer, it will be our idle capacity, which means in my example you can see my effective or practical capacity is 800 units, but my budgeted requirement is 700 units, which means I'm going to produce only 700 units, which means 100 units we can produce, but we are not use that capacity because our budget is less, which means there is a gap between this 800 and 700 units. It is 100 units. It is our idle capacity. It is our idle capacity. In my example, this is idle capacity. Idle capacity. So you can understand what is idle capacity. It is unused capacity. So my attainable or practicable output level is 800 units. Budgeted output level is 700, which means 100 units we are not producing, which means it is our unused capacity. Unused capacity we call as idle capacity, right? So you can see a idle capacity in which scenario? ඔයාලට idle capacity එකක් දකින්න පුළුවන් කොයි අවස්ථාවකද? If your budgeted capacity is less than your practicable capacity, or either if your budgeted capacity is less than your effective capacity, at that point you can see a idle capacity. හැම වෙලේම idle capacity එකක් ඇති වෙන්නේ ඔයාගේ effective capacity එකට වඩා budgeted capacity එක අඩු නම්. අපි හිතමු effective capacity එක 800යි, budgeted capacity එක 700යි. එහෙනම් budget එක ඔයාට කරන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රමාණයට වඩා අඩුයි. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයාට ප්‍රයෝජන නොගත් ධාරිතාවයක් ඉතුරු වෙනවා, which means there can be idle capacity. So idle capacity is possible only when our budgeted capacity is less than effective capacity. So those kind of MCQs are possible. So remember, so these are, you want to remember, these are key areas. So here, so I can say like this, these things you want to remember. The design capacity always greater than what? Design capacity is always greater than effective. Agree with this statement? Yes, the design capacity is the maximum capacity. Effective capacity, we are adjusting some factors, the labor shortages, machine breakdowns. So obviously effective capacity will be lower than design capacity. Budgeted capacity can be changed. Either it can be more than effective capacity, or either it can be lower than effective capacity. So if budgeted capacity is more than effective capacity, budget එක 900යි. Budget is 900 units, which means we can only produce 800 units. The remaining 100 units we can't produce. So at that point there won't be any idle capacity, there will be a shortage. So we want to address that shortage. We want to sort out how we are going to enhance our capacity. අපි තුන් බජට් එක 900යි, අපිට පුළුවන් හදන්න 800යි. එහෙනම් 100ක් හදන්න බෑ. එහෙනම් අන්න ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී idle capacity එකක් නැහැ. මොකද බජට් එක වැඩි. ඒ හින්දා ඒ වෙලාවේදී අපි බලන්න ඕනේ කොහොමද අපේ capacity එක 900 දක්වා වැඩි කරන්න පුළුවන්. That is a different scenario, right? So idle capacity only possible if budgeted capacity is less than effective capacity. So those kind of things we want to remember, right? So right, okay, now we'll move to the next slide. Now how we are going to manage our demand. How we are going to manage our demand. So there are two things. Demand is coming through outside, no? Demand is coming through outside. So according to the demand, what we are doing, we are producing our products. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉල්ලුමට අනුව අපි භාණ්ඩ හදනවා. So we can manage two things. Either we can manage our demand, or either we can manage our supply, which means our capacity side. ඒතර ආයතනයේ අපේ අභ්‍යන්තර ධාරිතාවය අපිට ඕන නම් වෙනස් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ ධාරිතාවය 800යි, ධාරිතාවය 1000 දක්වා වැඩි කරන්න පුළුවන්, ධාරිතාවය 600 දක්වා අඩු කරන්න පුළුවන්. අපේ ධාරිතාවය අඩු වැඩි කිරීමේ හැකියාව අපිට තියෙනවා ඒ ආයතනයේ පැත්තෙන්. නමුත් ආයතනයේට ධාරිතාවය වෙනස් කිරීමක් සිදු කරන්න ඕනේ ඇයි? අපිට නේ ඉල්ලුම හින්දා. අපිට ඉල්ලුම වැඩි වුණොත් ධාරිතාවය වැඩි කරන්න ඕනේ. ඉල්ලුම අඩු වුණොත් ධාරිතාවය අඩු කරන්න ඕනේ. So here we are focusing about demand. So how here this controllability is very less, but there are some strategies. We can follow some strategies. If we follow these strategies, what will happen? The demand will be somehow adjusted, right? So here some possible strategies are, we can have a little control over demand. We can influence our demand to a certain extent, right? So here how we are going to manage our demand. So here under this demand management strategies, we are discussing few strategies. So here you can see these are these strategies I have taken. So we can see three scenarios are possible. So I am going to discuss this demand management strategies under three scenarios. So first scenario is when capacity exceed demand. When capacity exceed demand. So my first criteria is capacity exceed demand. Our capacity exceed demand. Let's say our capacity is 1000, but in market the customers only requesting 800 units. So here you can see this scenario. We have 1000 capacity, but the customers are requesting only 800. So here we can see we are having 200 excess capacity, 200 units of excess capacity. අපිට ඒකක 200ක අතිරික්ත ධාරිතාවයක් තියෙනවා. So here how we are going to manage? how we are going to manage. So here this is our first scenario. When capacity exceed demand. When capacity exceed demand. So in this point so here there's an issue, right? We are having 1000 capacity but demand is less. So these are not matching. So what we can do, we can manage two things. Either we can manage our capacity or either we can manage our demand. මේ දෙකනේ ළමයි අපිට පාලනය කරන්න කියන්නේ බලපෑමක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ගන්න තීරණ හරහා එක්ක අපේ ධාරිතාවය වෙනස් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. එක්ක අපි ගන්න තීරණ තුලින් යම් බලපෑමක් ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන් ඉල්ලුමට. So now we are going to talk about demand. දැන් අපි කතා කරන්නේ demand එක ගැන. So how we are going to manage our demand? So here in this scenario you can see capacity is 1000, demand is 800. So to match these two, what do you want to do? Now we are not changing any. Now capacity is constant. අපි දැන් මෙතනදී capacity ගැන කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. Capacity එක ස්ථාවරයි. How we are managing our demand? In this point we are going to talk about what are the strategies we are going to use to manage our demand. In this point capacity is constant. So capacity is 1000. So what we want to do? We want to enhance our demand. Then only this demand will match with our capacity. So there is a demand and our capacity gap 200 units. So what you want to do? We want to enhance our demand or we want to increase our demand. So what are the possible strategies we can follow? So first scenario, this is scenario 1. You can see scenario 1, capacity exceed demand. So in this point what are the possible demand management strategies that we can follow? එතකොට demand අපිට වැඩි කරන්න මොනවද strategies ගන්න පුළුවන්. So we'll have a look. So here we can do some advertising or other methods of boosting demand. We can have some advertising campaigns. So as a result of these advertising campaigns, the customers will aware about our products, they will aware about our usefulness. So obviously as a result we can expect a demand boost. We can demand එකේ වැඩිවීමක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්න පුළුවන් අපේ advertising කරලා. Or either another possible strategy is reduction in selling price. So we can reduce our selling price. So there is a relationship between demand and our price. If we reduce our selling price, what will happen? As a result, we can expect a demand increment. So we can reduce our selling price. So remember that it is only applicable for price elastic product. But right, so if demand is price elastic, we can follow this strategy. Why? Only this price elastic product will respond to our selling price changes. So if you are reducing our selling price, the demand will be increased by a higher rate if you compare it with our selling price reduction. ඒ කියන්නේ selling price එක 105කින් අඩු වුණොත් ඒ අඩු වෙන වේගයට වඩා වැඩි වේගකින් demand එක වැඩි වෙනවා. අන්න ඒ වගේ product වල තමයි අපි කියන්නේ price elastic තියෙන product. ඒ කියන්නේ නම් ඉල්ලුමක් තියෙන භාණ්ඩ ඒවට අපිට පුළුවන් මිල අඩු කිරීමක් තුලින් ඉල්ලුම වැඩි කිරීමක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්න. නමුත් අනම්‍ය ඉල්ලුමක් තියෙන භාණ්ඩවලදී මේ strategy එක අඩු මේ strategy එක අපිට යොදා ගන්න බෑ. If our if our demand is price inelastic, at that point we can't follow this strategy. But if demand is price elastic, at that point we can follow this strategy. What is that strategy? Reduction in selling price. Right. Then third strategy, we can give some discounts. We can give some discount. As a result, we can expect a higher demand. Right. That is first scenario. The second scenario, when demand exceeds capacity. The second scenario, when demand exceeds capacity. So we'll say our demand now 1500, capacity is 1000 but demand is 1500. Now what will happen? Our capacity is not sufficient to meet our demand. Our capacity is not sufficient to meet our demand. So this point, now we are talking about only demand side, right? Capacity we can manage, that is a separate scenario. Now here we are assuming capacity is constant. We are going to manage only demand. So demand management strategy. So how we are going to manage our demand? So what you want to do? We want to reduce this demand. because here in this case the capacity is constant, we are only managing the demand, so we want to reduce our demand. So what are the possible strategies that we can follow to reduce our demand? So this is the opposite strategies of the first scenario. ඒ කියන්නේ කලින් අපි ගත්ත strategies වල අනිත් පැත්ත. Which means what we can do, we can increase here what we can do, we can increase selling price. Previously we decreased or we reduced our selling prices. Now what we can do here, now we can do, we can increase our selling prices. As a result, if we increase our selling price, as a result we can expect there will be a drop in this demand, so we can reduce this demand, right? Or either what we can do, we can switching production from other less popular products, which means there can be some products, there is it having a lower demand, there will be some products which having higher demand. So what we can do, so we are having a limited resources, so here we can see we are having only limited resources, but we are having only limited resources. So what we can do, from the lesser demand products we can take the resources out and we can use those resources to higher demand products. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉල්ලුම අඩු භාණ්ඩ වලට අපි යොදා ගන්න සම්පත් අරගෙන ඉල්ලුම වැඩි භාණ්ඩ හැදීම සඳහා යොදා ගන්නවා. So that is switching production from other less popular products, right? So here less time and funds may be spent on promoting the product, which means we are reducing our advertising. Or either from our supply side, what we can do, we can increasing our production capacity. So here under this demand management strategy, we don't want to consider that as a strategy, so we'll remove that one because that is from supply side, right? I'll remove that one, right? So these are the possible strategies that we can use. So obvious main two things are these two. We can increase our selling price, we can reduce our advertising. So this is also from our capacity side. So these two are the main strategies we can use from demand side. So here demand management strategies we are talking, so these two we can take. So I'll remove this also out so we can have better understanding, right? So you can see these two are the possible strategies from demand management side. So the scenario is when demand exceeds capacity. So in my example, you can see my demand is 1500, capacity is 1000. So what I am going to do, I am going to reduce my demand. So I increase my selling prices and I reduce my advertising campaigns. Third point, when seasonal demand situation. So there can be some seasonal demand situations. So some festival seasons, some economical drop situation. Now in these days the COVID-19 situation. So those kind of scenarios are seasonal demand situations. So what we can do, so we can follow this as our possible strategies. What we can do, in peak times what we can do, we can increase our selling prices. In peak times what we can do, we can increase our selling prices. As a result what we can do, we can reduce the demand. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට ඉල්ලුම වැඩි අවස්ථාවකදී අපිට බාණ්ඩ දෙන්න බෑනේ. ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී අපිට ඉල්ලුම අඩු කර ගන්න ඕනේ. හින්දා අපි මොකද්ද කරන්න පුළුවන්? කැපැසිටි එක ගැන හිතන්න එපා දැන්. ඩිමාන්ඩ් එක ගැන විතරක් හිතන්න. එතකොට අපිට පුළුවන් මිල වැඩි කරන්න. මිල වැඩි කරොත් අපිට අර වැඩි වෙන ඉල්ලුම අඩු කර ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ peak times වල අපිට පුළුවන් price එක වැඩි කිරීමේ strategy එකක් යොදා ගන්න. Or either what we can do, we can increase the stock levels, right? We can increase our stock levels, keep ready for seasonal periods. So there can be some peak periods, right? There can be some off seasonal periods. So what we can do in off seasonal periods, what we can do, we can increase our stock levels to meet our seasonal demand. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉල්ලුම අඩු කාලයේදී අපි වැඩිපුර භාණ්ඩ හදලා තියා ගන්නවා මේ සීසන් එකේදී විකුණන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ ඩිමාන්ඩ් එක අපි වැඩි වෙයි කියලා දන්නවා මේ සීසන් එකේ. ඒ හින්දා සීසන් එකට කලින් අපි ඕෆ් සීසන් එකේදී නිෂ්පාදනය වැඩි කරලා භාණ්ඩ වැඩිපුර තියාගන්නවා. ඒ කියන්නේ ස්ටොක් අපි ගාව තියාගන්නවා. අර season එකේ ඉල්ලුම වැඩිවීම පාලනය කිරීමට. So what this will be one possible strategy what we can do. We can make stock available to meet our seasonal demand. So from our off seasonal period we can keep this stock available to meet our future seasonal demand. So we can in advance we can keep for that particular demand, because obviously we know in April season there will be festival season. So in March, February we can ready for that. In December obviously there will be a festival season. So from November or the previous month we can ready for that. So those kind of strategies we can follow to meet seasonal demand situations, right? Now we are going to manage our capacity. Now next one. Now there won't be any. Now here we are assuming our demand is constant. Now demand not constant, we are not doing anything for our demand. What we are going to do, we are going to manage our capacity, right? Now the capacity management strategies. Now demand is constant, not constant, demand can be changed, but the thing we are going to manage is our capacity level. So these are capacity management strategies. දැන් ළමයි අපි මැනේජ් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? කැපැසිටි එක. ඩිමාන්ඩ් එක ඒකට අනුව වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් අපි මෙතනදී ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් කතා කරන්නේ කැපැසිටි එක කොහොමද අපි ඩිමාන්ඩ් එකට මැච් වෙන්න වෙනස් කරන්නේ. So demand will be constant at this point. We are going to change our capacity. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඩිමාන්ඩ් එක ඉල්ලුමට අනුව අපි වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඉල්ලුම වැඩි වුණොත් අපි කැපැසිටි එක වැඩි කරගන්නවා. ඉල්ලුම අඩු වුණොත් අපි කැපැසිටි එක අඩු කරගන්නවා. ඒ කියන්නේ බාහිර සාධක වෙනස් කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. අපේ ආයතනයේ පැත්තෙන් අපි වෙනස් වෙන්න යනවා. From our organizational side we are going to change. Demand, it is from outside. We are not going to change that one. We are not going to take any policy for that. We are just focusing about our internal factors. We are going to change our capacity. We are going to enhance our capacity, or we are going to reduce our capacity. So what are the possible capacity management strategies that we can follow? We'll discuss. Right. So here, this capacity modifying strategies. So these are from our organizational side. Capacity modifying strategies. So there will be two possible scenarios. Either we can enhance our capacity, or either we can reduce our capacity. So these are the two possible options. So these things we are going to discuss in two ways. So here here we are going to manage our capacity. So we are going to talk about capacity management strategies. Now we are going to divide this capacity management strategies into two types based on the time period. ඒ කියන්නේ කාලය මත පදනම්ව අපි capacity management strategies කොටස් දෙකකට කඩනවා. So here based on time we are dividing into two types: short term strategies and long term strategies. So here you can see, based on our time, what we are going to do: capacity management strategies, capacity management, or we can say capacity modifying. Capacity modifying strategies we can divide it into two types: short term strategies and long term strategies based on the time period. So සමහර ඒවා තියෙනවා කෙටි කාලීන. ඒ කියන්නේ తాවකාලිකව ඉල්ලුම වැඩි වුණොත් ඒ ඉල්ලුමට මීට් වෙන්න අපි කෙටි කාලීනව තීරණ ගන්නවා. So those are short term strategies. Right? Sammadaya, we are going to ready for the future, which means more than 1 year period. We are going to ready for more than 1 year period, which means for our future demand. So we are going to ready for our future demand or future growth, which means it is long term strategies if it is more than 1 year period. So we'll discuss short term capacity modifying strategies first. එතන මෙතනදී අපි කතා කරන්නේ කෙටි කාලීන තීරණ. අපි කොහොමද කෙටි කාලීන තීරණ ගන්නේ? අපේ ධාරිතාවය මැනේජ් කරන්න. මෙතනදී ඉල්ලුම අපි ස්ථාවරයි කියලා හිතන්නේ, ඉල්ලුමට බලපෑමක් කරන්නේ නැහැ. අපේ පැත්තෙන් අපි වෙනස් වෙනවා. So we can use overtime or idle time. This is one possible strategy. We can use overtime or idle time. Overtime or idle time. So let's say our demand is higher. External market demand is higher. Our capacity is lower. We'll say this scenario. This scenario. Our demand is higher. Now I'm talking this one. Let's say our demand is higher, capacity is lower. At that point, what we can do, we can enhance our capacity. Let's assume this demand is a short-term demand, which means this is a temporary demand. Let's say in the April season, we want to produce more. So what we want to do, demand is 1500, our capacity is 1000. So what we can do, we can enhance our capacity by overtime, which means we can ask our employees to work overtime and we can pay more for them. As a result, we can enhance our capacity level. So we are going to meet this exceeded demand. So what we can do, we can follow this strategy overtime. So overtime strategy is possible when our demand is higher. When our demand is higher than our effective capacity. Or either idle time. Either idle time means we can give some rest for our employees. So that is possible when our demand is less. අපේ ඩිමාන්ඩ් එක කැපැසිටි එකට අඩු නම් අපිට එතකොට සේවකයන්ට පොඩි නිදහසක් දෙන්න පුළුවන්. එයාලගේ රෙස්ට් පීරියඩ් එක පොඩ්ඩක් වැඩි කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ දේවල් කරන්න පුළුවන් අපේ ඩිමාන්ඩ් එක අඩු අවස්ථාවක. So this overtime will be possible. This is a short term strategy when demand is higher than our capacity. Idle time is possible when our demand is lesser than our capacity. So මේ වගේ වෙලාවක අපිට මොකක්ද කරන්න පුළුවන්? overtime OT use කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඇයි? demand එක වැඩි. මේ වගේ වෙලාවක අපිට පේනවා capacity වඩා demand එක අඩුයි. So we can give idle time. So we can give some rest. Here you can see in my scenario 1, capacity is higher, demand is less. In this point, what we can do, we can reduce this capacity by giving idle time. So we can give some rest for our employees. In this scenario, we can see demand is higher, capacity is lower. What we can do, we can enhance our capacity by utilizing overtime, OT. Clear? This is machine hire. Now we can see if our demand is higher. In this scenario, we can use another strategy. If our demand is higher, capacity is lower. Now we can do what? We can decide whether this demand is a permanent demand or it is a short-term demand. If it is a short-term demand, no point of no point of purchasing a new machine for us. What we can do, we know this is a temporary demand. To meet this demand, we can hire a machine for short-term period, for 1 month or 2 months. We can hire a machine from outside supplier and we can meet this demand. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි මෙතනදී අලුතින් machine එකක් ගන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ cost එක වැඩි. මේ తాවකාලික ඉල්ලුමට meet වෙන්න අපි machine එකක් hire කරනවා. So this is machine hiring. This is one possible short-term capacity modifying strategies when our demand is higher than our capacity level. So here you want to keep in your mind, this machine should be readily available in the market, then only we can follow this strategy. If we are giving some idle time, means at that point where there is an extra cost because we are paying for that idle time as well. If our salaries are based on the time, if our salaries are based on the number of pieces, it won't be affected. But if you are paying for time, means there will be extra cost, right? If you are utilizing the overtime, we want to know whether these employees are willing to work, and we want to know even for employees also there will be some maximum capacity for them. About that particular capacity level we can't go, right? Another short-term capacity modifying strategy is changing inventory levels. So we can change our inventory levels to meet our future demand. So this is also one capacity modifying strategy, right? This is a short-term capacity modifying strategy. So building up inventory during quiet times and reducing them during times of peak demand. So we are keeping or we are enhancing our inventory levels during quiet times, which means off seasonal periods, and we are reducing our inventory levels at peak periods. So එකකින් කියන්නේ ඉල්ලුම අඩු කාලෙදී අපි වැඩිපුර තොග රැස් කරලා තියාගෙන ඉල්ලුම වැඩි කාලෙදී ඒවා විකුණලා ඉන්වෙන්ටරි එක අඩු කරගන්නවා. So this is changing inventory levels. So this is also from our capacity side. Right. In here previously also we discussed this strategy, so we'll reduce that from that slide so it will be more clear, right? So this stock one clear, so it will be more, now it will be more realistic. So for the seasonal demand situation we'll talk only about this pricing strategy because we are only talking about demand side now, so no point of talking about inventory side. So here we'll discuss this inventory side one. So changing inventory levels we'll put under short term capacity modifying strategies. So this will be more clear for you, so don't more focus about that study text. So here in this slide I have corrected that one, so here you can have a better understanding. So here we'll put this changing inventory levels into short term capacity modifying strategy. Okay, so changing inventory levels will be a capacity modifying strategy and it will be a short term, right? So this changing inventory levels we can't apply for one type of organization, it is service organizations. Why? In service organizations we can't keep inventory levels because at that point we want to give the service, we can't store that one. So for the service organizations we can't follow this particular strategy, but for the manufacturing organization obviously yes they can follow, right? So now you can understand what I explained so far. We explained what are the capacity levels, so what are the design capacity, what is the effective capacity, what is the budgeted capacity, what is the idle capacity, so what are the demand management strategies. So here there are two things, capacity and demand. So we can manage our demand, so what are the demand management strategy. So then the next part is we can manage our capacity from our side, we can manage our capacity. So capacity management strategies or capacity modifying strategies we are dividing into two types, short term and long term. Now we are talking about short term capacity modifying strategies. So we discussed three possible strategies, right? Now we'll move to the next part. This is long term capacity modifying strategies. Long term, which means more than 1 year period. So here we are, what we are going to do, we are going to expand our business, which means our we are going to expand our factory, we are going to acquire new machines, so those kind of things, which means we are going to do some permanent changes. So these are long term capacity modifying strategies. So you want to ensure that we are going to take this kind of decisions if we are having a long term demand, which means there will be a future growth, there will be a continuing demand increment. So likewise there should be a constant, or there should be a future constant demand, or there should be a permanent demand in future. So we want ready for that. For that purpose what we are going to do, we are going to take some long term capacity modifying strategies. So our demand is permanent. If our demand is a temporary basis, we are going for short term capacity modifying strategies. If our demand is long term oriented or it is a permanent change, we are going to go for long term capacity modifying strategies, right? So there will be two scenarios, one is excess capacity, one is capacity shortages. Okay, we'll move first one, excess capacity, which means our capacity is higher than demand. Our capacity is higher than demand. So you can see this scenario, our capacity is higher than demand. So now we are going to think about a long term period. Our capacity is higher than demand. So our capacity is 1000, but the permanent demand is 800. So why we are keeping some excess capacity? So no point of keeping excess capacity, why it incur higher cost. So what we can do, we can take some long term decision. So what are the possible strategies that we can take? We'll have a look. So what we can do, we can reduce our capacity. Why? We are having excess capacity, demand is less, so no point of keeping excess capacity. What we can do, we can reduce our capacity. So what we can do to reduce our capacity, what we can do, we can close some of our factories, we can sell some of our machines, we can sack some of our employees. So those kind of decisions we can take. So if we are reducing our employees, if we are closing our factories, if we are selling our machines, which means we are reducing our capacity permanently, right? So these are long-term decisions, but we want to ensure, which means there won't be no more demand in future for this particular product. So no point of keeping these factories, or no point of keeping these employees, or no point of keeping these machines. So what we are going to do, we are going to reduce those capacities. Or if you are having excess capacity, we can take another good strategic decision, which is diversification and increase in demand. Diversification and increase in demand. So this will be a more interesting strategy, diversification. Why? Now what is the scenario? Now what is the scenario? Our capacity is higher, demand is less. So demand is less now. So which means from our product, then there can be some problems with our product, or there can be some issues with some of our product. As a result, demand is less in the market. So what we can do, we can do some diversification. We can, let's say we are producing a phone or whatever, so we can add some more features, we can add some new versions. So as a result, what we are going to do, we are doing some diversification. As a result, what we can do, we can increase demand, or we can diversify into new fields. Now we are producing only mobile phones, now we are going to produce laptops, now we are going to produce some now other tabs, so whatever, some other field, we are moving to other fields. So we are going to diversify. So the less demand areas to higher demand areas, we are moving our resources. As a result, what we can do, we can meet our demand, or we can utilize our excess capacity effectively, right? Without reducing our capacity, we can use in this way. So in this way, if we are diversifying, means there won't be any closing factories, there won't be any selling machineries, those kind of things. Just what will happen, the same resources we are using for another purpose. So that will be more interesting strategy. So there won't be any harm for our employees, existing employees. In this case, there will be a harm for our employees. So in this case, same resources we are using for another purpose. The next point is capacity shortages. When capacity is short, which means our demand is high, demand is 1500, capacity is less. So how we are going to meet our excess demand? So here we are not talking about a long term period, we are talking about a permanent demand, which means we want to take some long term decisions, which means we can increase our capacity. So we can open a new factory, we can acquire more employees, we can purchase new machineries, own machineries. So those are some permanent decisions to meet our future permanent demand, or future more realistic demand. So we are ready for growth in future. For that purpose, what we can do, we can expand our capacity. Or either without acquiring in our own, what we can do, we can subcontract. We can subcontract, which means our capacity is 1000 but demand is 1500, which means 500 units we can't produce, which means this 500 units we can give someone else to produce. That is subcontracting. We can't produce, we'll give the 500 units someone else to produce on behalf of us. That is subcontracting. So that is also one possible scenario. But we want to keep in our mind, there will be some advantages and disadvantages if you are going for subcontracting. Such as we want to consider, they are producing on behalf of us. If something happen to the quality, what will happen? There will be a negative impact to our goodwill. So we want to ensure whether our third party supplier will produce at a proper quality, whether they will deliver us the goods on time, whether they have enough resources, whether they have specialized special knowledge on that. So those kind of things we want to consider before going for subcontracting, because we are going to give one of our tasks to third party, right? Clear? Right. So subcontracting should be evaluated before going for this decision, right? Right. Now, so far we have discussed lot of things, lot of theories, lot of strategies, lot of theoretical aspects we discussed so far. So we will go for computation now. So I have selected one question from your pilot paper, so we'll move to that question. So here, this is your pilot paper question number 3. So okay, have a look on this question, what they are saying. So they have allocated 10 marks for this question. So this is one interesting question. So this kind of questions are possible in your examination this time, because this is the new area added to your syllabus. So there will be higher focus on this area, either from theoretical side or either from this computation side. Right. So have a look on this question. So what they are saying, NAS Private Limited has recently faced considerable variability in demand. Companies evaluating two short-term capacity modifying strategies. So here you can see they are focusing about short-term capacity modifying strategies. So forget about long-term capacity modifying strategies now. Why? They are clearly saying the company is recently facing a considerably variability in demand. So it is a variable, there's a variability in demand. So it is short-term demand fluctuation. So obviously company is going to take a short-term capacity modifying strategy. It is not a long-term scenario, right? Changing inventory levels and varying their workforce. So they are going to change their inventory levels and they are going to change their workforce level. So that is their possible two strategies that they can follow, right? So they have given this information for their first quarter, January, February, March, and April information also they have given for some additional info. So demand forecast, they have given the demand for January 2000, February 2500, March 2500, April 2000. Number of working days, they have given 22 working days for January, 19 working days for February, 21 working days for March, 20 working days for April, right? Now other information they have given as follows. Opening stock, they have given January 200 units. Labor hours required to produce 1 unit, they have given 2 hours required, which means to produce 1 unit they need 2 hours, to produce 100 units they need 200 hours. Likewise we want to compute the hour requirement. Then they have given working hours per day. For a standard day they are working 8 hours. Number of employees at the beginning, which means in January number of employees are 26. Labor cost per hour we are paying 100 rupee, which means per day per labor we are paying 800. Why? A labor working 8 hours per day, per hour we are paying 100 rupee, which means 800 rupees per labor. We are having 26 employees at beginning. So those kind of information we want to keep in mind very carefully, right? Cost of hiring, training a person. If we acquired a new, or if we recruited a new person, we want to incur 5,000. So that is if there's any labor movement, if there's any new recruitment per person, there will be 5,000 cost. Cost of layoff. If we are layoffing one person, at that point we want to pay 10,000. So it can be a compensation or whatever. Stock holding cost per month, 10 rupee per unit. Holding cost per month, 10 rupee per unit. So remember, when you are computing this holding cost, remember I already explained when you are talking about this working capital management, inventory decisions, inventory management, I explained at that point also. When you are computing this inventory cost, there can be some ordering cost, there can be some purchasing cost, there can be some holding cost. When it comes to the holding cost, remember always we are multiplying this unit per cost by number of average stock for that particular period. Remember that average stock level into cost per unit. That is how we are computing stock holding cost. Remember, we won't take the average holding inventory level for that period into the rate. Stock out cost. So if there's any stock shortages at that point, we won't incur some cost. It can be some subcontracting cost, or if there's any damage for our goodwill, or if we are losing any customer, those kind of stock shortages costs can be there. So if we can't meet our demand, means there will be some extra cost. So here stock out cost they have given per unit 15, which means the demand is 1000, we are having only 900 units. Demand is 1000, capacity is 900, which means 1000 units we can't produce. So there is a stock shortage of 100. For that there will be a shortage cost or stock out cost that is given here. Per unit it is 15 rupee. So those are the information given, right? So now they are asking to evaluate the following options for the quarter ending March 2020, which means January, February, March. Obviously this quarter means it is less than 1 year period, which means obviously you won't follow short term strategies, right? And recommend the best course of action. So there are two options given. So we want to find the best course of action, whether option A is suitable or whether option B is suitable. So option A, we'll have a look. They are saying company changes the workforce in short-term capacity planning. So here the company is planning to change what? The company is planning to change their workforce. So if there's any higher demand, they are going to recruit new people. If there's any short demand or the demand shortages, they are going to sack some their employees. So those kind of a scenario we call managing their workforce in short-term period. So that is they're mainly managing their workforce. So that is option A. For this additional information they have given, assume that closing stock requirement is 20% of next month demand, which means for the next month demand, out of the next month demand, 20% we are keeping in this month end. So that is the meaning here. So let's say in next month demand is 2500, the 20% mean 500. 2500 into 20% means 1 out of 5, which means 500. So the meaning of this is we are keeping 500 units at January end to meet February demand. So February demand is 2500, 20% of that 500 we are keeping at January end. So January end our stock will be 500. Remember that it will be the opening stock of February. So that is a simple logic, right? Now option B. Option B, they are saying company changes the stock level while keeping a stable workforce. Here they are not touching any in workforce. They are not touching to the workforce. They are only touching the inventory level. So here they are only controlling their inventory levels while keeping the stable workforce. ඒ කියන්නේ එකම සේවක ගාණක් තියාගෙන එයාලා stock level එක වෙනස් කරලා මේක manage කරන්න බලනවා. පළවෙනි අවස්ථාවේදී මොකද්ද කරන්නේ? සේවකයෝ ගාන වෙනස් කරලා මේක manage කරන්න බලනවා. So these are the two scenarios. So we'll have a look on the answer. So how we are going to find the answer for this? So remember this question, we want to take a decision whether this company or this NAS private company should follow option A or they should select the option B to manage this demand fluctuation. So here we want to quantify what is the cost if they are following option A, what is the cost if they are following option B. Then we want to give a conclusion, this option is suitable for this organization. Okay, so how we are going to find, right? Okay, we'll do this computation now. So we'll have a look on option A. Option A, what they are saying in option A? In option A, what they are saying, they are only going to control the workforce. Okay. So January, February, and March. So demand they have given, right? Demand they have given 2000, 2500, 2500, 2000. So 2000, 2500, 2500, 2000. Right, so this is the demand level. So opening stock, closing stock, production. Right, so opening stock in January they have given it is 200 units. 200 units. And another information given in option A, they are saying this company is keeping 20% of stock level, 20% of next month's demand as their closing stock. So company is keeping closing stock 20% of next month's demand. So closing stock, it is very easy to find. It is 20% of next month demand. So next month demand into 20%. So here you can see next month demands 20%. Next month demands 20%. Right. So how to find the production capacity? So in January month our demand is 2000, so obviously we need this amount, and we are having opening stock 200 units, right? So how to find the production capacity? How to find your production capacity? How to find? Here how to find your production capacity? This is the demand for this particular month, and closing stock we want to keep. This is already available in our opening stock, that means we no need to produce that in this month. So our production capacity will be 2300. So in which way we have computed that one? For the demand we added the closing stock minus our opening stock. That is the opposite of this cost of sale computation. Here what we want to do, we are going to find the number of production needed. So demand and closing stock, that is the amounts we are going to add here, and opening stock, it is already available, so we are not going to produce that one, so we are minus that one. So we can find, to meet this demand and to keep this closing stock, we want to produce this much in this month, which means in January month we want to produce 2300 units. So similar formula we can apply for the rest. So you can see right, then the these months opening stocks we want to adjust. So remember, January's closing stock will be the opening stock of February. So January closing stock will be the opening stock of February. February closing stock will be the opening stock of March. March opening stock will be the closing stock of April. Opening stock will be the closing stock of March. So this information no needed now. They are asking only about the first quarter. So quarter 1, Q1. So this information we have computed. Now we know what is the production needed in January, in February and March. Right, now we are going to change only our labor force or workforce. Right, then the second point, we want to know what is the labor hour requirement. So they have given, to produce 1 unit we need 2 labor hours. So labor hour requirement. So they have given 2 hours per unit. That is already given, which means to produce this 2300 units, we need how many labor hours? Into 2. 2300 into 2. Likewise, we can find the labor hour requirement. Right? Labor hour requirement. Then number of working days. Right? Number of working days. They have given 22, 19, 21. 22, 19, 21. Right? So we want to find the what is the time required for one employee. So one employee can work, which means here for this particular January month, one employee can work 22 days per day. He is working 8 hours, which means for this particular January month, we can find one employee can work only 176 hours, right? So likewise, we can find this is the one employee's capacity. For 1 month, per day, one employee's capacity is 8 hours. For 1 month, he can work 22 days, which means 22 into 8, 19 into 8, 21 into 8, which means this is the one employee's maximum capacity for these months. එතකොට එක එම්ප්ලොයි කෙනෙක්ට උපරිම කරන්න පුළුවන් ධාරිතාවය තමයි මේ. ඒ කියන්නේ එක එම්ප්ලොයිකට උපරිම වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් පැය 176යි මාසෙට ජනවාරි මාසෙට, පැය 152යි පෙබරවාරි මාසෙට, පැය 168යි මාර්තු මාසෙට. So we can find, so actually we needed these requirement. Actually we need this requirement to produce this demand or to produce this output. We need 4600 labor hours. To produce this output, we need this much of labor hours. To produce this output, we need 4800 labor hours. So one employee can work this much. So we can find what is the number of employees required. Number of employees required to meet our production. අපි මේ නිමවම හදන්න, මේ 2300 හදන්න නම් අපේ labor hours 4600ක් ඕනේ. එක්කෙනෙක්ට වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් මෙච්චරයි. එහෙනම් සේවකයෝ කීයක් ඕනේද? So this is our total requirement going to divide by per employee capacity or one employee capacity. So you can see if we divide our total hour requirement by per from one labor's capacity, we can find number of labors or number of employees, right? Which means if we round up, we can see here you can see number of employees required 26.14. so we can't divide our employees into parts, so 26.14 means it is more than 26, which means approximately 27. so number of employees we can divide. so here 26ට මේක වැඩි, එහෙනම් 27ක් කියලා අපි ගන්නවා. so 32.8 means it is 33. 28.57 means it is 29. so this will be the labor hour requirement. So this is the labor hour requirement. So this is the work force or employee requirement. This is the employee requirement. To meet this demand or to produce this output level, we need 4,600 hours. One employee can work this much only for this particular month. Number of employees required 27, 33, 29 for these respective months. Right now, we are going to match, or we are going to compare this with our labor availability or workforce availability. Availability. So in this question they have given the company having only 26 employees. 26 employees. Beginning of January. So here we can see beginning the action. So here we can see the company is going to manage our labor force to manage their capacity. So labor force, either they are going to recruit or either they are going to sack their employees to meet this demand in this particular quarter. So they are going to manage their capacity by managing their workforce. So here workforce availability beginning of the January 26. ජනවාරි මුල ඒ සේවකයෝ 26යි ඉන්නේ. නමුත් ජනවාරි මාසේ මේක කරන්න නම් මිනිමම් හදන්න නම් අපිට සේවකයෝ 27ක් ඕනේ, which means what you want to do? Here you can see there's a shortage. We need 27 employees, but we are having only 26. What do you want to do? We want to recruit one. Which means there will be a new employee. Clear? තේරුණාද ළමයි? මොකද සේවකයෝ ජනවාරි මුල ඉන්නේ 26යි. නමුත් අපිට මේ නිමෝම කරන්න නම් අපිට 27 දෙනෙක් ඕනේ. එහෙනම් අපි සේවකයෝ විතරක් මැනේජ් කරනවා නම් අපි අලුතින් සේවකයෙක් ගන්න ඕනේ. Clear? Right. Hope everyone understood this one. So then now our labor force is changed to 27. ඇයි ජනවාරි මාසේ අපි එක්කෙනෙක් ගන්න ඕනේ. එහෙනම් පෙබරවාරි මුල වෙද්දී සේවකයෝ ඉන්නවා කීයද? 27ක්. 26ක් නෙමෙයි. ඇයි? මෙතනදී සේවකයෙක් ගත්තාම ජනවාරි මාසේ අග වෙද්දී සේවකයෝ 27ක් වෙනවා. එහෙනම් සේවකයෝ 27ක් ඉන්නවා පෙබරවාරි මුල. So you can see in February our workforce availability is 27, but we need how many employees? 33. To meet this demand we need 33 employees, which means we want to recruit another 6 more employees. We want to recruit another 6 more employees. So another 6 recruitments will come for February. Now our labor force availability in March will be 33. Why? Now this February end our labor force increase up to 33. So in March beginning our employees will be, number of employees will be 33. But in March month we needed only 29 employees, but we are having 4 employees more, which means there is an here we are having 4 employees in excess, which means there will be a layoff, employee layoff. 4 employees will be leave, or we'll ask them to leave. Clear? So this will be the possible actions that we can take if we are managing our labor force. So now we can find the cost. If you are following this action, what will be the possible cost? So they have given, if you are recruiting a new person or if you are hiring a new person, we want to pay 5,000. So 5,000 for new employees. There will be extra cost of 5,000. So we are here into 5,000. So here in February month also we can see 6 new employees are there. So 5,000 into 6. In March we can't see any new employee, so new employee cost will be 0. New employee cost, or either it can be training cost. Then stock out cost, not stock out, the cost of layoff. If any employee is leaving, we want to pay some amount. So in January we can't see any employee leaving. In February we can't see any employee leaving, but in March we can see 4 employees are leaving. So 4 into per employee we want to pay 10,000. So into 10,000. So we can see the associated cost with this decision. We can see associated cost with this decision, plus the obvious cost will be there. We want to pay for this usage. So for January month we need 4,600 labor hours, which means per labor hour we want to pay how much? Per labor hour we are paying 100 rupee, which means the labor cost, that is rent into hours. Per labor hour we are paying 100 rupee. In January month we are using 4,600 labor hours. So this will be our labor cost, right? In February we are using 5,000 labor hours into 100. In March we are using 4,800 labor hours into 100. Clear? Here now you can see clearly our cost structure will be like this. Our cost structure will be like this. So if you are following this first strategy, what will happen? For January month, this will be our cost. February, March. So total cost for this particular quarter will be this much, which means 1,515,000. 1,515,000 will be the cost if we are following the first option, which means if you are following the first option, option A, our cost will be 1,515,000 if you are following option A. Clear? Hope all you understood. If you are following option A, our cost will be 1,515,000. Right. Now we are going to the option B. What will happen if you are following option B? In option B, what they are going to do? They are going to change only stock levels while keeping this stable workforce. They are not going to change their workforce. They are only going to change their stock levels. So how we are going to do that one? Right. So we'll take the same example. Okay, we'll take some. Now option B. Right, now production we can take, right? Right, here in this option you can see here this information I am taking. This you already computed in previous one, so I am taking this info. Here you can see this information we already computed. You can see January month we are having 22 days. One employee can work 176 hours, which means our total labor capacity for this particular month will be 3,872. Likewise, for February month, our capacity will be 2,888 hours. For March month, our labor capacity will be 3,528. This is because of number of employees are constant. Per employee can work for one day will be 8 hours. It is also constant, but here number of days for each month is differ, which means their capacity levels also will get changed. So here number of days are more, so our capacity is more. Here number of days are less, which means their labor capacity is less. Here number of days are 21, so it is moderate. Clear? So here number of labors or number of employees are 26. It's not changed. Number of employees 26, it is not changed. Per day they can work 8 hours, it's also not changed, but number of days for each month is going to change. As a result, the maximum labor hour capacity for Jan month will be 3872. So this is the labor hour capacity. Labor hour capacity. So here in this second scenario, what they are going to do, they are not going to change their employees. So this capacity won't change. They are only going to change their inventory levels. Inventory levels තමයි වෙනස් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. So this is our labor hour capacity. Then that means we can find our production. What is the possible production? So possible production that they are going to do. Why they are going to utilize this all employees, which means per unit we need how many hours? 2 hours. So here how we can find possible production? Capacity can be divided by per unit requirement. So per unit we need only 2 hours, which means we are having this much of labor hour capacity. Per unit we need only 2 hours, which means we can produce this much of output. So this will be our possible production. Clear? So production we can find easily. So here this will be our production. Clear? So using our existing employee capacity or existing employees, number of employees 26, we can produce this much of output for January, this much of output for February, this much for March. Clear? Right. Now opening stock they have given, demand they have given. Now what we can do? Now we can find the closing inventory level. Closing inventory level. So this is the opening inventory. Opening inventory 200 plus. During this particular period, January month, we produced this much using our existing labor force, and this much of amount we have sold out, which means our demand is deducted, which means end of January month so here I have going to do a small change here. I have considered only one employee can work 176 hours. So here I have taken this for only one employee. So here we are having 26 employees. So I'll take 26 employees can work, which means all employee capacity. So per day 26 employees are there, right? Per day they can work 8 hours, which means here I am going to change this info. This is I have taken previously only for one employee. Here I am taking this for 26 employees. For 26 employees per day they can work 208 hours. 26 into 8, right? So 26 into 8 per day they can work this much. This is for one month. For this entire 1 month, this will be their capacity. So per day all employees can work this much labor hours. 22 days are there, so all workers capacity per day into number of days, which means this will be the total month capacity. Now this is correct. Now what we can do, now we can find the possible production. So this is our total labor hour capacity for this particular 1 month. Per unit we need only 2 hours, so this can be divided by 2. Then we can find the number of output for each month. So now I have taken that production to here. So here you can see number of possible production using our stable workforce, not changing our workforce. Here we are only changing our inventory levels, right? Now opening stock they have given. Now what we can find? Now what we can do? We can find our closing inventory levels. How we can find? Number of production during the period, opening stock available. This will be the total stocks available in this particular month. This is the demand. What is the amount we have sold? So this will be the remaining stock at January end. This will be the closing stock. Right. This will be the opening stock. January's closing stock will be the opening stock of February. So it is already I have taken. So it is 488. Now we will do the same formula for February. February production is 1976, opening stock 488 minus their demand is 2500, which means our closing stock will be minus 36. It is not possible, which means minus 36 means there will be a stock shortage, which means our stock level will be 0. So we can't take this minus 36 for the next month because minus 36 means there's a shortage. We don't have 36 stock with us. So we can't take it for next month. It will be 0. There won't be any opening stock from previous month. Now we'll compute the same thing for March month. This is the number of production. This is the opening stock. There is no opening stock. This month we want to sell this much. This is our demand. So in March month also you can see there is a minus closing stock as per this formula, but there won't be any closing stock minus figures. It is not possible. It also 0. Closing stock is 0. So the closing stock in this both scenarios 0, but the minus figures, those are shortages. Shortage. So remember Lamai, if there's any plus figure or positive figure here, it will be our closing stock. If there's any minus figure, it is not our closing stock. Closing stock will be 0, but the shortage will be 36 and 316. So these two are stock shortages. These are stock shortages. These are the closing stock for February and March in this scenario. Clear? Alright. Now we can find these are the closing stock available in January. So here in February there won't be any closing stock. Stock shortage will be there. It is minus 36. Here stock shortage will be there. It is 316. Closing stock is 0. අපිට ඍණ තෝගයක් තියාගන්න බෑනේ ළමයි. ඍණ තෝගයක් කියන්නේ එතන shortage එකක් තියෙනවා. shortage එක වෙනම අපි කතා කරනවා. stock එක පැත්තෙන් බැලුවොත් stock එක බිඳුවයි. අපිට stock එකක් නැහැ. ඉල්ලුම වැඩි. Right. Right. Now in second scenario, how we are going to compute our cost? How we are going to compute our cost? Okay, we'll do that one. Cost. Now option 2. In the second scenario, we are having stock holding cost. Stock holding and stock out cost. Stock out cost. Right? And the labor cost will be there similar. Right. Right? Right. Now in this case you can stock holding cost. Stock holding cost, how we are going to take? How we are going to compute our stock holding cost? Average. How we are going to take? Average stock level into rate. Average stock level into rate. So in January we can see what is the average stock level we are holding. How to find the average? How to find the average? Opening stock 200 plus closing stock 488 divided by 2. මුල තොගයට අග තොගය එකතු කරලා දෙකෙන් බෙදන්න ඕනේ. ජනවාරි මාසයේ ආරම්භක තොගයට අවසාන තොගය එකතු කරලා දෙකෙන් බෙදනවා. ඒක තමයි සාමාන්‍ය තොගය. ඒක අපි වැඩි කරන්න ඕනේ මොකෙන්ද? Into the rate. What is the rate? Stock holding cost per unit, it is 10 rupee. Which means 3,440 will be in the stock holding cost for January. Average stock level is 344. Here, if you can see, the total is 688. The half of this is 344 into 10. 3,440 is the stock holding cost for January. February also same thing we can do. What is the, how to find the average inventory? Opening inventory plus closing inventory. Here closing inventory, the shortage is 36, which means there won't be any closing stock. Closing stock in February is 0. So 0 divided by opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2 into per unit 10 rupee. So the only opening stock is there. So half of that 244 into 10, 2,440. In March, we can't see any opening stock, we can't see any closing stock, which means there won't be any stock holding cost. මුල තොගයකුත් නැහැ අග තොගයකුත් නැහැ හින්දා stock holding cost එකක් නැහැ. Stock out cost. In January, opening stock is there, closing stock is there. We are having a saving, or we are having a stock at the end of this month, which means there is no shortage. So there is no stock out cost in January. In February, demand is 2,500, but we are having only 2,464, which means there is a shortage of 36. So 36 into the stock out cost. It is 15 per unit. So 15 into 36. Here, the March month also there is a stock shortage, 316 into 15. So this will be the stock out cost. Clear? Clear? ජනවාරි වලදී අපි ස්ටොක් ඌනතාවයක් නැත්නම් තොග ඌනතාවයක් තිබ්බේ නැහැ. ඒ හින්දා එතන කොස්ට් එකක් නැහැ. මෙතනදී ඌනතාවයක් තියෙනවා 36ක් into 15 540. මෙතනදී තොගේ 316ක් අපිට අඩුයි. යුනිට් 316ක් අඩුයි. වැඩි කරා 15න්. එතකොට 4740යි stock out cost එක මාර්තු වලට. Clear? Now we are going to find the labor cost. Labor cost. Now remember in this month, in this quarter, they utilize the existing employees fully. Existing employees fully, which means the total labor hour capacity is utilized. Which means in January month they have utilized how many labor hours, or how many labor hours used? 4,576. එතකොට මෙච්චර labor hours use කරලා තියෙනවා ජනවාරි මාසේ. වැඩි කරනවා එක labor hour එක rate එකකින් into per labor hour rate, it is 100 rupee. Here also the same thing, the total capacity or labor hour utilization of February month into their rate, 100 rupee per hour. In March also same, 4,368 hours used into 100 rupee per hour. Now we can see the total cost for Jan is 461,040. Total cost for Feb is 398,180. Total cost for March, you can see 4,000. So here total cost for January, you can see 461,040. For February, you can see 398,180. For March, you can see 441,540. So total you can see 1,300,760. So this is the respective cost for each month. So here January you can see 461,040, 398,180 for Feb, 441,540 for March. The total cost will be 1.3 million approximately, which means 1,300,760. So you can see for option A, our cost is option A, our cost is 1.5 million approximately. For option B, our cost is approximately 1.3 million. So you can see it clearly which option is more suitable based on the cost factor. Here you can see based on our cost factor, you can see option B is more suitable, or it is cost benefited to the organization. So you can suggest option B is more suitable, which means we can manage our stock levels to enhance our profit. So option B is more suitable than option A. So you can see the answer. We have done this computation. So in option A, you can see 1.5 million approximately will be the respective cost. Clear? So here you can see the computation, right? So here in option A, we did only manage only our labor force. We acquired new employees. We allowed them to leave from our organization. That is our first strategy. Inventory level, we didn't change in this scenario. We only kept 20% of next month's demand as our inventory. So only we have changed is our labor force. So our total cost computed was 1.5 million approximately. So here in option B, as per our computation, we used our existing employee level and we produced the production for each month based on their maximum capacity level. So according to that, we only adjusted our stock levels. So here you can see in January there is a closing stock, but in February the closing stock is minus. It's not actually closing stock, it is actually stock shortage. This is also actually a stock shortage. So there won't be any closing stock in February, there won't be any opening stock for March then. So you can see stock holding cost. Remember, this stock holding cost we are computing only for the average inventory that we are holding. This stock out cost we are computing only for if there's any stock shortages. Direct labor cost we are computing for the actual labor hours used. So here you can see the total cost for this option B is 1.3 million approximately. So our conclusion is to follow the option B because it is the lowest cost option. It is the lowest cost option. Here we have not considered the other non-financial factors. There can be some other non-financial factors. If we ask our employees to leave, it will be impact our existing employees. They will be demotivated. If there's any stock running out or stock shortage, it will be affect our goodwill in a negative manner. Our existing customers will be moved to the other possible suppliers. So there can be some other non-financial factors for this scenario. So just forget about those. Based on the financial factors, we can recommend option B is suitable, right? This is not based on the non-financial factors. This is merely based on the financial factors, right? So here the possible MCQs I have given. So what is the design capacity? So I already explained this one. Design capacity is the theoretically what is the maximum output level that we can achieve theoretically. So here we are assuming we are utilizing our capacity fully. There won't be any labor shortages, there won't be any machine breakdowns. If we utilize our resources fully, what is the theoretical maximum output level? So that is the answer B. Answer B. You can have a go through this answer. So here you can clearly identify that it should be the answer B, right? So remember, in design capacity we are using what? We are using ideal standards. In effective capacity we are using what? Attainable standards, right? Next one, which of the following strategy is long-term oriented? So here you should be able to classify your strategies into short-term and long-term. So here I am asking what is the long-term oriented possible strategy. So it can be overtime and idle time is those are short-term strategies. Machine hiring for temporary demand, we are taking this kind of decision, so it will be a short-term. Purchasing a machine, so this is we are incurring a higher cost, large sum of money we are investing, which means it can be a long-term strategy. So it is so you can see this purchasing a machine will be the suitable answer for this particular question. So right, so if you have any question, you can ask by commenting on WhatsApp group, so I can help you out if they're having any doubt.